Look at the ancient kingdom of Israel during its peak years. The markets are full, the borders are secure, and the elite class is thriving. To the average citizen, the nation looks invincible. But beneath this comfortable surface, the structures holding society together are beginning to buckle. The biblical text portrays a God who repeatedly tries to correct his people through early, manageable warning signs. Yet the nation meets every single warning with total indifference, blinded by an intense collective arrogance. The prophet Isaiah identifies the exact point of failure in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 13. "For the people turneth not unto him that smiteth them, neither do they seek the Lord of hosts." They face early military losses and border skirmishes with Syria and the Philistines, but they write them off. They see these events as bad luck or simply the cost of doing business, completely dismissing them as divine correction. By refusing to seek aid or change their behavior, the society crosses a dangerous threshold. Their refusal to listen triggers a chain reaction that begins to tear the nation apart from the top down. Ignoring the initial cracks in the foundation does not stop the building from falling. It only guarantees that when the collapse happens, it will be sudden, violent, and generated entirely from within. The destruction doesn't start in the streets. It starts in the palaces and the temples. The removal of righteous, capable leadership serves as the first domino to fall. Isaiah lays out the targets of this judgment. "Therefore the Lord will cut off from Israel head and tail, branch and rush in one day. The ancient and honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail." The highest levels of political elites and the religious figures trusted to speak the truth are entirely compromised. Verse 16 explains this corruption. "For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed." The leaders are actively pointing the everyday citizens in the wrong direction, walking them straight off a cliff. This is what Isaiah means by the branch and rush. The branch sits at the very top of the towering palm tree, while the rush is the coarse weed growing down in the marsh. The moral rot has saturated the entire vertical structure of society, from the highest-ranking judges to the lowest classes. When a nation's elite class abandons truth and manipulates the very people they are supposed to protect, the foundational stability of the entire society evaporates. With the moral compass shattered, the text introduces a powerful metaphor for the resulting chaos. Wickedness operates exactly like a smoldering fire. If left unchecked, it will eventually consume everything in its path. Isaiah tracks the timeline of this fire. "For wickedness burneth as the fire, it shall devour the briars and thorns. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire." The destruction starts in the hidden, dark backrooms, the briars and thorns, before exploding into the open streets, turning the citizens themselves into the fuel. Panic and greed take over. Verse 20 describes the desperation. "And he shall snatch on the right hand and be hungry, and he shall eat on the left hand, and they shall not be satisfied. They shall eat every man the flesh of his own arm." Neighbors plunder each other, completely driven by an insatiable need to survive the chaos. This fractures the nation geographically and politically. Verse 21 spells out the tragedy. "Manasseh, Ephraim, and Ephraim, Manasseh, and they together shall be against Judah." The northern brother tribes tear each other to pieces and then bizarrely combine their exhausted forces to attack their relatives in the south. This obsessive, vicious infighting requires all their attention and resources, leaving them entirely blind to the massive Assyrian and Syrian armies massing on their borders. A society that has abandoned its morals rarely requires a foreign army to bring it down. The citizens will gladly do the enemy's work for them, consuming their own strength before the real war even begins. The text then shifts from the streets back into the courtrooms to expose the absolute bottom of the moral decline. The point of no return is the systemic, legalized exploitation of its weakest members. Continuing into chapter 10, verses 1 and 2 deliver a blistering condemnation. "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. Isaiah then confronts these corrupt lawmakers with a chilling question in verse 3. And what will ye do in the day of visitation, and in the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will ye flee for help, and where will ye leave your glory? All their stolen wealth and carefully crafted legal immunity will mean absolutely nothing when a real army breaches the walls. We see the historical reality of this desolation in this ancient stone relief. The carving clearly depicts brutal Assyrian siege tactics, showing archers taking aim and defeated figures falling from the walls, the external judgment that swept over the fractured nation. Verse 4 details the inescapable physical outcome for a people who have pushed God away. Without me, they shall bow down under the prisoners, and they shall fall under the slain. Through both chapters, a terrifying refrain repeats over and over. For all this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. When a society decides to normalize corruption and cannibalize its own people, it actively strips away its own armor, leaving nothing to shield it from the brutal, inevitable consequences of its pride.